Hey everyone, hey and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchmen. Slight deviation from normal course. We're not talking about Watchmen, but we are talking about Alan Moore, which I think is a fair trade. Someone who I've just started worshipping recently. Like, I've always been a fan, but I bought loads of his stuff over the Christmas period. I've been reading a biography on him, Def. He's my goddamn hero.
Why?
I can't. There's a depth to his storytelling. There's some sort of like secondary, tertiary layer to everything that he does that I just really admire. And, you know, from learning about this guy's, life, Northampton born and bred, I even want to buy like his early 2000 AD Doctor Who comics. I hate Doctor Who, but I would read an Alan Moore Doctor Who comic.
Nice.
You know
Why do you hate Doctor Who?
I don't know. I want
this is getting really introspective already, this.
You can imagine a Dalek doing a Rorschach test or something like that, or some early prototype there, definitely in that world ending. But, we'll get to more. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm really good, man. My website went down this morning, so you panicking fixing that. But other than that, we're all good. Definition.co.uk should be back up by the time you hear this.
Okay, check it out. But yeah, we've taken a little break. We're not doing Doomsday Clock either. We're doing our first sort of official This Is Not Watchmen sort of thing here. Killing Joke was an obvious choice, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much heralded as one of the greatest Batman stories ever told. I've actually already reviewed it over at my website. Right. I don't want to give too much away on what I think of it, but it's quite highly regarded by me as well. Pretty much, I mean, I've never really met a comic book reader who doesn't like it. It shook up the DC universe quite heavily by not only telling the Joker's origin story, but it also placed one of Batman's major allies in a wheelchair. So it's got a lot of history to it. Originally, it was meant to be an Elseworld story, I think, but it was so popular that they just decided to go with it and put it in the main canon.
Yeah, and I think it was chronologically after Watchmen, the first thing I think he did afterwards, on DC at least. And can you imagine at the time you've read Watchmen and you're like, what the fuck is this guy coming up with? Oh, he's doing a Batman Joker story. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? You'd be foaming to get this.
Yeah, it's amazing, especially for me. And it is a great piece of work. Every time I read it, I'm kind of surprised by how short it is.
Yes.
I always kind of remember it in my head to be longer and more grandiose and intricate, but it's on the surface, it's pretty much, it takes place over the space of about one night. Obviously, it's thematically, it centers around how one bad day can turn you from the nicest guy in the world to an evil supervillain or a vigilante and hero. And it's really concise. There's not really much time wasted in it, and it's just a nice book.
And its influence cannot be understated. Not only is it a fantastic story, as you say, a one-shot, highly influential in the comic world, highly influential in the film world. Tim Burton's mentioned it. Christopher Nolan served as an influence for the version of Joker in The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger, apparently given a copy, didn't read it though.
But yeah, I wouldn't say his performance was very heavily influenced by this book. I mean, perhaps the multiple past backgrounds, but other than that, yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say it's massively influenced by it.
No, but I mean, it's just Batman is gritty to a certain extent. No, like we both love Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman. Wasn't there an All-Star Batman, but it was like trash or something? I've not read it.
Yeah, there's an All-Star Batman and Robin by Frank Miller. That was
Frank
trash.
Miller one I'm thinking of. Yeah, I think the Scott Snyder one's meant to be good. I haven't actually read that.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I don't know why he decided to use a similar name.
Right.
But yeah, it's a bit weird. But all writers have their ups and downs. Like recently, I've just read Action Comics from the New 52, which it was written by Grant Morrison. And I just thought, oh wow, another Superman story. Starting off a universe by Grant Morrison, it's going to be as good as All Star Superman. It's not good. It's pretty crap.
Yeah,
which is a shame.
What's wrong with it? It sounds perfect.
You're just firing back, yeah. Yeah, it just kind of drops all the potential that he has, and Grant Morrison can be very creative and go off on it and do his own things. Like, it starts off with Superman basically in jeans and a T-shirt with the Superman symbol on. So, you know, it's a very updated design. He's also got the red cape. So it's just basically a guy. He's against the law. He's taking down mobsters. But it all sort of quickly drops it for the alien invasion by Brainiac. He gets his standard suit, and it just kind of just feels a bit of a waste.
And, you know, we've spoken about Alan Moore a hell of a lot on this show. We'll continue to speak about him. At the moment, I'm actually reading Top 10, which I'm not over the moon with. I don't mean to upset Moore fans, but I also bought the Bo Jeffries saga, which is kind of his Coronation Street impersonation from the mid-'80s. So
nice.
Yet to read that. That's very Watchmen 9 panel. It's literally just like, you know, like a sort of satirical cartoon in The Guardian. It's just sort of Moore's musings on, you know, a vegetable patch that actually means nuclear war, or, you know, there's some sort of obvious comparison there. But Brian Boland is the artist for this book. You know, it's similar to a Dave Gibbons. He is the co-star here. His art is incredible. I think he produces a fantastic book. He's a brilliant talent, right?
Yeah. Oh, he's really good. I think he's... Do you know what? I'm not going to say who's better than, but yeah, he's really, really good. Okay. He hasn't done that many Batman stories, which is a shame. He tends to do a lot of variant covers, but his artwork's really realistic. And originally, like, one of the biggest controversies around this book is that it was actually recolored.
Sure.
So there was a first edition of it where the colors were kind of zany, and then Brian Boland went back and recolored it for the deluxe edition. And, you know, I'll go into my thoughts later on it, on exactly what I think is better. But he does a really good job of bringing his work to life in a realistic manner. And a lot of the, you know, the drawings that he does are near photorealistic at points. He's really, really good. And I think it just brings a whole grittiness and realism to this story.
Yeah, completely. I just checked on his Wikipedia. His early series from him is called Camelot 3000. I need to read this. The series follows the adventures of King Arthur, Merlin, and the reincarnated Knights of the Round Table as they emerge in an overpopulated future world of 3000 AD to fight off an alien invasion.
Nice.
Come on. Camelot 3000. All I've seen is the front cover. If you've read Camelot 3000, leave us a comment. Get in touch with us as well, watchingthewatchmanpod@gmail.com. We have some great emails. We won't read any out today, but we've got tons of great Watchmen emails, so keep them coming. What you think on the issues, what you think on this, indeed. We'll read that out in the future. You know, comment below as well. We'll put all the links in the description. But the Killing Joke, Def. We best get to the Killing Joke. I've got the deluxe edition. I don't know if you have. And it's got if you take away the dust cover, it's got an embossed front and back, and indeed a spine as well. And it's
like most books.
Yeah, and it's effectively like the last panel blown up. And
it's really nice, isn't it?
Awesome.
Yeah, really good. To be honest, a lot of the time when they do this, I actually prefer it to the dust cover. But, you know, I need a cover from the dust, so I've got to leave it there. But yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, I
like how when you open it as well, there's just a black page with the Joker's eyes, and Batman the Killing Joke, and then the next page is that the darkness is gone and it's just Joker there laughing in that iconic panel, where it's got all the ha-ha-has in the background. It's probably about a tattoo. It's a tattoo on probably 1 million people.
Hell yeah.
If you go to Comic-Con, you'll see it 1,000 times.
Some dude from Texas has got that as a back piece, no doubt.
Exactly.
And I didn't notice actually that if you just move the front page back and forth, it's Joker's eyes, you know, centric through. So that is crazy. That is so effective. And just the ha-has kind of dominating the entire screen there. And there is an introduction as well by Tim Sale, and he speaks about the colouring issue. He said, this time around you have the fantastic treat to see the book coloured by the artist himself and see his more complete vision of how the story should look. I saw a YouTube vid, Def, of someone comparing, and like you said, zany, like, you know, I think certainly the origin scene when he's kind of ascending out of the water, it's coloured much nicer in this one, much more drained.
Yeah, which I don't know if I like it as much. I think that sort of the crazy colours work better for the Joker's personality. It's been toned back very heavily, and I think the book sort of suffers for it. In the Joker story, I just think the colours should fit his personality rather than be muted. However, the dulling of the palette, it does help to heavily ground this book in reality. So there's no real definitive answer for what works better. But just for personal preference, I would probably go with the original. But then again, I don't know if it's because I read that first, and they've sort of George Lucas'd one of my favourite works. Sure. But yeah, it would be like if they recolored The Dark Knight Returns. I think they would lose a lot of the ambience and the character of that book. And in doing this with The Killing Joke, I also think they've not only lost a bit of the character of the book, but also of the Joker himself.
And it's funny you mention that, actually, because I recently encountered Watchmen Noir, which is, I don't know if you've seen it, it's Watchmen black and white, essentially.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I looked through it. I was like, it's just missing so much. It's nowhere near as effective.
Yeah, DC do a lot of noir books.
Yeah. Who is that for? Like the edgy teen? I don't understand who wants that.
I think it's just people who want to see like perhaps
the pencils.
Artists. Yeah, like I did have actually Soul. The lad, you're his biggest fan. He bought me Batman Hush in black and white.
Damn.
And yeah, it was nice. You could sort of see. Actually, no, what it wasn't. It was Batman Hush Unwrapped, which is where you can see the artist's work. Noir is literally just black and white. So I don't know what they're doing there. Get rid of it. Get rid of them.
And also talking of Watchmen, sorry, we'll get to The Killing Joke straight away. I was saying to you, Watchmen Annotated, which came out recently, which has got a foreword by Dave Gibbons. It's basically a reprint of Watchmen as a bigger coffee table book with annotated notes. Nice. Anyone that follows Watchmen obviously follows our podcast. I myself definitely rely on a few web pages that are just annotated notes of the issues. Really brilliant, criticisms that I've often used and pilfer from. They're so inspired. Looking through this book, it's kind of trash. Like, there's quite a few pages that don't have annotations. And it's like, no. Every single panel of Watchmen is worthy of a page at least.
Listen to the podcast before you start annotating. They need someone like me who just doesn't research at all. If you got
hired, I'd be bitter. I'd be like, what the hell?
No, because you do your research and stuff, whereas I just I don't have time for that. I just literally come on and sprawl out stuff for an hour and a half. So you need both of you. You're right. Yeah, you do the research and me to just come on with the crap jokes that everyone hates.
Just listen to this podcast. You don't need to buy Watchmen Annotated. But we'll get to the first panel, which I know from the brilliant Alan Moore biography that supposedly what he sent Brian was an incredibly in-depth couple of pages about this first panel, just the rain and the concentric circles. That's it. Yeah. Just, obviously this means everything, with Moore. And this panel in particular is very important to the concurrent theme of Moore, the mirroring, the symmetry, the suggestion of difference through the order. But yeah, we begin here with the rain falling and, something like this cannot help be evocative, right?
Yeah, and it's great how the book sort of opens on how it ends. To me, there's an entire analogy throughout this book of Batman and the Joker being opposites of each other. It's sort of like looking into a mirror and seeing the reflection of yourself in your darkest moments, or the Joker looking into a mirror and seeing Batman reflected back, which is the best that it could be. So it's great that the entire book thematically is a mirror and it opens on a rain puddle, which is exactly how it ends. See, that's why you don't do research, Tom. You come out with amazing stuff like that. The research just holds you back. And it's just atmospheric, and there's no dialogue for like the first 3 pages.
No.
Which is a really atmospheric way to open, and you instantly grip by it, like what's going on, and it's very slowly paced. One of the great things about the 9-panel grid is that you can take your time with stuff, and seconds can be stretched out into minutes, and it can be really well paced. Whereas when you sort of divert from the grid and draw it yourself, the reader can sort of just rush through things, which is why I actually prefer this. It's called prestige paneling, Tom. That's another thing I picked up from doing my research online. Oh no, they've discovered this. So it's just really well paced, really atmospheric. It doesn't need to have big bombastic moments, but it still draws you in. And you can kind of get by like the stuff that Batman passes throughout, that this is a really intimidating guy. And it's almost like he's going on his final mission. And this is like we're picking up directly at like this is almost the end for Batman.
And, incredibly evocative, the density of these shadows, the third paneling, with the Batmobile visible, with the lights so suggestive, and the way the sort of the refraction has made this X that kind of just centralizes us towards. I mean, I love the fifth panel as well. The spikes on Batman's wrist, coincidental with the kind of edgy windshield, the spikes of the manor itself. Everything about this man is so iconic.
Yeah, and it's so sharp and like it just stands out, which is kind of why I also prefer the old coloured version as well. It sort of just leaps off the page a bit more, whereas this is sort of more like watching a movie. But yeah, it's still expertly done. We see like Harvey Dent there. A lot of it's silhouette as well, which Batman, he's very much known for living in the shadows, so it's just a really well thought out way to depict the Cape Crusader.
And establishing in panel 8, when we see Commissioner Gordon and some assembled grunt, Batman's human chin. He is fallible. Maybe there's some sort of, glass jaw kind of thing there, just evoking, the humanity that can be punctured here. But, this runs throughout, doesn't it? That this is Batman.
Yeah, definitely. He's, you don't really get much of the human aspect of him in this book. He's always sort of in the persona, but there's definitely signs of weakness in there, especially with his opener, where it's rare that this is sort of the approach for the superhero to go into the villain and plea for him to stop. He's begging for him to like end this before one of them ends up killing the other one. Which is, it's a very pacifist approach, which isn't often depicted in comics. A lot of the time, it's the hero shows up at the lair and just kicks the crap out of the villain and saves the day, and that's it. But this is like a really nice, grounded and thoughtful way to approach a villain sympathetically and be like, look, I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to talk to you. We never have this conversation man to man. It's always fists. And please stop.
Yeah.
It's like when people email this podcast, tell me to stop doing the jokes. They're just like, please stop.
We see Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
Which is like just not important. It's a very nice kind of aha sort of moment. They had to have someone in the cell. We see other people later on. The whole thing in of itself, if you're going for that kind of quote unquote last story aspect, it does have a lot of wink references.
Yeah, and it's just like it's really good at world building, but not doing it over the top.
Sure.
It's sort of letting you know that Batman's biggest villain is the Joker, for the fact that he just completely walks past Harvey Dent and just doesn't see him as like, he doesn't even look at him. He just strolls past him. Harvey Dent's kind of looking longingly at the gate, wanting to be more important, but he's just not. And Batman just really wants to get to the root of this problem and end it once and for all.
I love the bar dividing his face. It's so simple, but very, very clever.
Yeah, and it's one of the only characters that you could do it with as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's clear that Moore's put a lot of thought into this.
Seeing his nails as well from behind, it's great.
Yeah, and he finally gets to the cell, which is number 0801.
Does that have significance to Batman?
Oh, I was gutted, mate, because I was sure that somewhere it was like the letters of the alphabet, and it was meant to spell out. So if you took 0 as A, for some reason in my head I'd built it up as 0800, okay. And No, sorry, 0808, and I'd built that up in my head as that if you take the letters of the alphabet, it spells out aha, but it doesn't. It just spells out Ahab. But
Moby Dick?
The Joker, yeah, maybe. Well, Ahab's actually mentioned a couple of times in Batman comics, but it's always kind of an insult from the Joker to like the Penguin or something.
Okay.
But it does make a reappearance later in Scott Snyder's run. Batman visits the Joker's cell in Endgame, and he's still in the 0801 cell. So it's nice that someone at least references this book further down the line. Yeah. I'm sure there is multiple inferences, but there's not that much depth that I know about to it.
Yeah, and the cop
should have done me research.
It's all good. It's what the comments are there for, to correct us. Please let us know. But yeah, Batman descends upon the cell. The cop, salutes. Yeah. And this is, I mean, maybe I don't know my Batman history, but this sort of face-off, them two, okay, it's not, Joker we learn very soon, but this sort of, spotlit face-off, very Dark Knight-esque, right?
Yeah, to be honest, when I first read this, I did kind of have a problem with Batman's like obsessed over this villain, and he doesn't recognize that it's not him. But growing up, I can kind of see, exactly why he wouldn't. He sort of more has this imagined version of the Joker rather than the actual version of him. So yeah, it's just a nice touching moment that he's went to plea with him, and it's also at this point that the first line of dialogue within the book is there were these two guys in a lunatic asylum, which of course later down the line becomes the Killing Joke. And it's nice that it starts off here. It just lets you tonally know that there's these two guys trapped in a lunatic asylum. Little do you know exactly how much this line pays off in the end.
And just our first Batman lines, "Hello, I came to talk." The simplicity, the sincerity, as you said, the honesty, to what his motives are. And yeah, I didn't really consider him not knowing it's Joker or not. Like, obviously, I know it's not him, but him not noticing straight away. But I didn't consider that. I suppose I'll have to just deal with that. But yeah, I guess if they're same sort of body shapes, I guess. But how like Batman knows this person. Batman has gripped and punched this person probably hundreds of times.
Yeah, exactly. So he's hit the lad in the face.
Yeah,
he's probably romantically. If you believe some of the theories, he loves the lad.
Right.
So yeah, he would recognize him.
And the giveaway is the fact that he's got makeup, which works well, I think, in establishing the Joker character of darkly. That he is a more permanent fixture of what he is. He isn't someone. He isn't costumed as so many of what Batman faces off to. And it's interesting, though, that, okay, it's not Joker, but he talks like Joker.
Yeah. It's probably just because it's a god who's... No, does he even talk? The guy doesn't even talk.
Does he not even talk?
He doesn't even talk. What the hell are you on about? No, he doesn't talk. Okay. So, yeah, he just says... The only thing he says is, hey.
Okay, that didn't feel like Joker to me, but yeah, no, I get what you're saying. And then
you want to read where the arrows point to, Tom? That's a little tip for you there.
And we see, when he talks further in more doublespeak and the juxtaposition of him being touched, he gets pulled into a great panel, where Batman's pulling him in, a very 80s panel of sort of interaction between them, right? Yeah,
brilliant. It's sort of, he's angry. This guy's terrified. He's pulling them so hard that he's like ripping his sleeves from his t-shirt or whatever it is. His shirt. Yeah, and it's just fuming that he's like confessed his love to this guy, and it's not him.
Yeah,
as we all would be.
Yeah, and don't harm one hair on his head inevitably goes to a wig being pulled off, which is classic, really. He calls him a whimpering little smear of slime. Slime does come up later as well. Someone's called a slime ball or something. I can't quite remember exactly where that strikes, but we get Joker then, in a familiar environment. It's the bloody carnival from Doomsday 2.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that this like location isn't used more often for the Joker. It kind of seems like the perfect like place for him, and it's just great that the Joker's appearance also breaks the 9-panel grid. With his face, that he shows, Batman enters on this very rigid structure, because Batman represents order,
right,
and the Joker represents chaos. So it's nice that his first appearance in the book is just causing chaos to the page itself. It's very fourth wall breaking, and it's just a really good entrance. And I love that fairgrounds do have a sinister side to them.
Yeah.
They're all bright and colourful, but if you go there at night, I guarantee you will shit yourself. So it's nice that Moore's picked this location that's normally full of life and so exuberant and twisted it almost into this really sinister villain's lair.
Yeah, without really necessarily changing anything. Like, we learn about the rides are being dilapidated, etc., and don't like it, don't care. I'm crazy for it, which is a wonderful sort of half turn there. But for me, it's just the reality of these places. Seeing that dozed out clown in that glass box. There's nothing Joker did there. Like, that's just what it looks like, and that's kind of what they do look like. And it's sort of, it's play for that. The fat lady as well, gals, be glad it ain't you. Is the tagline there, is nice as well. We learned a three-legged man, two-headed baby. These aren't things that aren't, have existed in the past, perhaps. Collectively in the subconscious of Moore, is definitely there. And, I love it. I love everything about this first panel introducing me. I just think it's expert.
Yeah, it's really well done, and perfectly sums up the Joker. He's smiling, but, there's something in his eye as well that's very, broken. And it's great that when we get this flashback to his past, we see exactly why he's crazy.
Yeah, and I think some of the best drawing happens in this initial flashback. I think the facial, expressions, particularly of the Joker, the reflections, his dejection, the sheer emotion that is wrung out of this scene through the writing and the paneling is just terrific, so affecting, I find it.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's a shame that DC have never confirmed exactly what the Joker's origin story is, because this one works so well, but I do kind of get why they want to keep it mysterious. It provides a lot of allure for the character, even though they've decided to suddenly say that there's 3 Jokers, which just doesn't make any sense, because surely Batman would have realised by now, but you never know. Yeah. Maybe one of the Jokers is that guy in the prison cell.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Just for 5 minutes. He was the Joker once, Alfred.
He's trying to be a stand-up comedian, this guy. He messed up the punchline, which is, not the thing you really want to do.
Yeah.
I think especially the bottom left, where you see his fists clenched, the agony on his face, and in the deluxe edition, it's coloured a little differently to the standard one. It's kind of more muted. We just have the one singular piece of colour in all the scenes.
Yeah, which I don't know why. I don't know what it symbolises.
Right.
To be honest, do you have any?
Not especially. No, I think.
It starts off very muted pink, but and then it goes for a darker red, and it slowly gets more red as we go on. But is the Joker's colour red primarily? I don't know.
Well, Tim Sale in the intros actually speaks about this briefly. He says, quote, Boland washes out all colour in each caption, but chooses a spotlight and object in each, a bowl of tentacles, shrimp, fly paper, and so on, in increasingly intensive shades of red, all leading up to the Red Hood that was posited to be the Joker's most forgotten origin way back in 1951. So apparently that's the thinking behind it.
Right.
It's not necessarily needed, but...
Yeah, it's all right. I don't know why Tim Sale's doing the introduction and not Brian Bolland, but Tim Sale's a brilliant artist. He did Batman The Long Halloween, which is actually my favourite Batman book.
Right.
But I don't know why he's kind of... It's not a definitive answer if he does it, to me. And the clown, the model that we saw earlier, becomes the one that Joker reaches out to. That's an incredible panel yet again. I think Moore does this in his sleep, juxtaposition, as we always say, going from one thing to the other and making you realise a third thing.
And I think him reaching out into his own reflection in the body of a classic vaudeville clown is just ridiculously good.
Yeah, and I like how the Joker was never funny in real life.
Yeah.
He's sort of a failed comedian, and that's why he's turned to crime.
Right.
And it's just nice background. He still thinks he's funny, but no one else does, which is, the Joker.
Mm-hmm. And the Joker, puts pay to the guy renting him out to the carnival. I don't know if the paneling here is exceptional, really, because in the second he goes for a handshake, and then in the third, you don't know if he's adjusting after going for it and killed the guy straight away with what? I don't know, like a syringe with something loaded in it.
Well, it's just the old classic like clown handshake, isn't it, where they electrocute someone. And it's just a nice little way that the Joker would kill you by shaking your hand on the deal, even though he's already made it. And the guy gets left with this horrible rictus grin, which a lot of the Joker victims are famous for having, and it's a very haunting way to die. You're just dead, but you're smiling. And I quite like it.
Yeah, and the language of a clown, the jester, the way they work in innuendos is perfect for the way Moore writes as well. You'll be left absolutely speechless. It's a lifetime guarantee, and you do feel to stick around. It's just all over the thing. I just think it's so well done.
Yeah, and it's exactly like what the Joker would say. It's almost a culmination of his best lines in one sentence, which very few writers are able to do. A lot of the time, the Joker, he says a lot of things, but they're not funny, they're not punchlines, whereas this is all building towards the joke, which it happens again when he attacks Barbara Gordon later on. So it's nice that Moore's written the Joker in a way that's very comedic. And Moore, we always say, has a dark sense of humor, so it's great that he gets to develop a character that also has one. A lot of his characters he imposes this sense of humor on them, and they don't realize they're being funny. It's very unintentional, but here he's got free reign to do what he wants. So a lot of the lines that come out from the Joker are punchlines and jokes.
And Batman's in his Batcave, which we saw back in Doomsday issue 2. Let's not forget that incredible piece of comic literature.
Get a Killing Joke sequel done, Johns.
Yeah. Well, that's that'll happen next. There has been, I think, that on the wiki there's loads of there's
a comic issue that picks up, but nothing's by Moore. You know what Moore's like for doing sequels.
Oh my god!
I've got no ideas. On to the next one. And they're like, but Moore, it's making so much money, we need to do it. Just put Jeff Johns on it. He's great at stealing people's work and getting high praise for it. Don't want to slag off Doom. I've seen someone write on Twitter the other day that Doomsday Clock issue 2 was 5 out of 5.
Wow.
One of the best comic books ever written.
Ever?
You've not read Watchmen if you've said that, but we seem to be the only ones slagging it off. But anyway, check out our Doomsday Clock review.
It would be amazing
if you want to hear two Alan Moore fanboys crying about how change is bad. We sound worse than Star Wars fans.
No, it's not. I didn't like Last Jedi. I mean, we don't necessarily need to talk about that, but I wasn't really a fan. But no, that would be incredible if we got Alan Moore on the show finally, and the first thing we ask is, when are you doing Killing Joke 2?
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh no, I wanted to talk
did you
about
think of
society.
The Watchmen movie?
Yeah. Why weren't you on the Watchmen bonus features? Why weren't you doing the commentary?
Get him on.
Yeah, it would be no. We talk about magic.
We'll bully him into doing it.
Yeah, he's in the Batcave. We see the dinosaur. We see the coin. We see the Joker. And, there's nothing this guy knows about him. Nothing he knows. I don't know how many years at this point he's been trying to find information, but the Joker is clearly like a ghost. He's kind of impossible to put down. The family photo of the Bat crew. As a Bat fan, is that warm to see?
Yeah, it's quite nice, isn't it? They've got Batmite there, which I don't know if you know that character, but he's like a fifth-dimensional magic being that can fly and disappear and stuff. He's a bit mental. It's a very weird creation. Not many people tend to use him very well. Grant Morrison actually does a brilliant device with him where he makes him a hallucination of Batman's. Right, so basically, Batman R.I.P. We're going to go on a massive Batman tangent here, but in Batman R.I.P., Grant Morrison has... He'd been building up for a while that this shadowy organisation were following him, and they'd also infiltrated his life through Silver St. Cloud, I think it was. No, I think that's a spell. Anyway, Jezebel Jet, right. It's this woman that you fell in love with, and then they just break him down psychologically. Throughout the book, they've been placing trigger words called Zur-En-Arr, which is sort of like the last thing that Thomas Wayne said to Bruce was after they saw the Mask of Zorro was they would put someone like Zorro in Arkham. So Zorro in Arkham broken down becomes Zur-En-Arr, so that becomes a trigger word for him traumatically to go back to his past. I'm going on a massive tangent here. Anyway, they infiltrate the Batcave, they inject Bruce with heroin, they use this trigger word to send him back into a regressive state, and Batmite becomes a hallucination of his inner self. And basically we learn that Bruce Wayne's so prepared for any eventuality that he's actually developed a split personality that will take over if he ever gets psychologically attacked, and he regresses into this alter ego that he's created and becomes the Batman of Zur-En-Arr, and he's aided by Batmite, who some would say is a hallucination, some wouldn't.
Okay. Well,
we can cut that entire section from the podcast.
No, there are 7 Batmite fans in Poland that are going crazy right now. So shout out to those guys. We get
I kind of butchered that as well.
There's so much lore in comic books. I can't remember any of it. So praise be to you. But we get a lot of Joker's mouth as well here on the screens above. We get a lot of sort of, mastication, I should say. And Alfred comes in. There's more mouths that we see throughout. Alfred's such a classic butler, and sometimes I forget that, with the toast and the tea. And, the way we get Batman as well is very 80s, isn't he? He's an incredibly muscly, athletic specimen.
Yeah, he's just he's in the prime of his life, both physically and mentally. He's a genius level. He's the second smartest man in the world, as we learned.
Oh yeah.
And it's just great.
Yeah, and he looks over, surveys. He's kind of looking at his mouth again. I don't really know what he's looking at the screens, but he's sort of trying to get to know him. How can two people hate so much without knowing each other? He asks. Which is quite a poignant point. And not the most graceful transition is him saying, how can people hate each other? And then someone saying, I hate this. And then we learn that we're in the Gordon household. Moore can be a little bit more delicate with that. But still, we get the cuttings. And I especially like... Well, the whole thing about the pasting the scrapbook becomes relevant quite soon when Barbara's shot body crashes into it and kind of invokes himself as a memory there in this lovely apartment with all these artifacts and the drinks cabinet, etc. But seeing that picture of Batman at the bottom left, isn't that like the first cover of Batman's appearance on comics?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's Batman 20. Yeah, sorry, Detective Comics 27. Yeah. It's just a nice homage to that. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's nice that he connects everything all together. Whereas Batman, if you do ever go back and read that issue, you'll see that it's not really much like Batman is now. He goes around murdering everyone.
Wow. Holy shit. Okay.
It's quite funny, though. It's basically Bruce Wayne sitting down with Commissioner Gordon having a chat, and then Gordon has to rush off to solve these murders, and Batman's there. And then you go, all right, well, Batman's a great guy. And then at the end, it's like this hilarious reveal where it's like, little did Gordon know, readers, that the man he's been talking with this entire time is... And then Bruce Wayne sort of walks into a cupboard, and the cupboard door closes, and then it opens, and it goes, Batman. He's in like the full costume.
Oh, shit.
It's a bit shit. Bring it back to where they cripple that lass in our living room. That's what readers want to see.
Bring it back to him getting his back broken or something. Yeah. And he'll, but yeah, it's like the 30s. I don't know when Batman started, but a long time ago. So, it's a bit
39.
39. Good God. We get, as you just teased, one of the most horrific events of the comic. A real indictment against Joker. My knowledge of Joker stories isn't huge, but if you want to point to a sort of horrific act that he's done, it's to knock a door open in sort of Hawaiian tourist garb. With a gun loaded, pointed straight, ready to disable and possibly more. This section without any text in which Barbara gets shot and then thrown onto the table. Everything from just seeing, her father with the scissors behind and the steaming coffee and the crash and the physical agony of her is palpable.
And it's got no dialogue in it. Again, it just complete. I remember. I do wish I could read this with fresh eyes. But it's pretty much as famous, to me at least, as the Darth Vader being Luke Skywalker's father.
Sure.
Spoiler alert. Everyone knows the twist. It's been recreated and used in almost all Batman media, so it's very hard to view with fresh eyes. But it's still as shocking as ever, and it's beautifully orchestrated by Moore. You can tell the tone completely changes, not only in the book but the DC universe itself. It's completely out of nowhere, and the turn just grabs your attention immediately. To me, this is sort of the moment when comics grew up. So gone were the days of Adam West and Burt Ward. This wasn't Batman fighting aliens on Mars anymore. This was the Joker showing up to where you live, not killing you, paralyzing you, and humiliating you, and then kidnapping your father. It's very, it's beautiful, but it's horrifying as well. This is no longer a villain in a lair or at the dock. This is in your house where you live, out of the costume. It's just horrendous. And it's a very controversial motif. Like, Moore went to the editor of DC originally and pitched it, thinking that the idea wouldn't get approved, or if it did, that this book would be an Elseworld book. But the editor actually apparently said, "Cripple the bitch." She went, "Yeah, cripple the bitch."
Yeah.
He went, "I will." And I think Moore, he often cites this as one of his worst works. And I think he regrets this as, it's just that I think he thinks it's very sexist and misogynistic that this man exerts such power over this helpless woman. But it is a great piece of work, and Moore, you should go back and read it. But, obviously Alan Moore hates everything he's ever done.
He does. And it's gruesome. I think especially the aftermath of the shot. I mean, not only the father going over to her, only visible is her mouth yet again, and we see Joker smiling in the corner. And Joker plays Joker. Like, Joker has just crippled this woman who's going to go on to do much more, but he pours a drink. He admires it as his goons, take care of the other threat in the room. And to him, for him to grab the dress and to pull it down, and then to prove a point, here's the crime, and you can see in his hand, part of the fabric coming apart and the glint. Yeah. And it's so horrific. Like, but it's brilliant. Like, it's just such a distillation of this character. Yeah.
Can you imagine little Timmy, 8 years old? His mum's got him some Batman comics. He's reading through like Batman versus the mad scientist, and then he gets to this one. It just completely changes the aesthetic of everything. And whilst Moore regrets it, I am glad that this is in the book, because the character Barbara Gordon goes on to become Oracle,
right?
Which is sort of Batman's eyes and ears. I don't know if you've seen Spider-Man: Homecoming, Tom, but one of Spider-Man's friends is just like, I want to be a guy in a chair who just like whizzes around on computers finding out everything, and that is pretty much Oracle. So it's very empowering to me for disabled people. It has, since the New 52, it was retconned and Barbara Gordon can walk again, but it hugely shook up comics at the time, and it's harrowing. It's probably one of the most important moments in Batman comics ever. And it's beautifully illustrated, beautifully paced, beautifully acted out.
Yeah.
It's just great.
And Joker, again, plays to Moore's advantages. He does those double turns when he's comparing her to a book. She thinks she's a coffee table edition, is what he says after he shot her, which is a very clever thing to say, but it's just such a menacing thing to say. Can't say much for the volume's condition. There's a hole in the jacket and the spine appears to be damaged.
Yeah, which is again more flaring off his dark sense of humor, and it's the lad's killing it.
Yeah,
He's the greatest of all time, and I love that you still don't know anything about the Joker. Like I didn't really talk about this earlier before, but I'm going to kind of go back on my notes a bit. So when they're in the Batcave, Batman sort of struggles to come to terms with how two people can hate each other without even knowing the identity of one another, but they do know each other. Like, Joker knows that Batman exists, and Batman knows that the Joker exists. Everything else is just noise that gets in the way of the stark contrast between both characters. And it's nice that they cover this identity when we get the flash forward, because to me, it sort of got me thinking, like, what if the Joker does have a secret identity that we've never known about, much in the same way that Batman does? And throughout the day, he sort of goes out in his normal clothes and acts like a normal person. And it really does speak volumes to Moore's work. Like, he enables the readers to think for himself whilst taking the characters in exciting directions. And it's nice that we do get this backstory of, you've just went from one of the most horrific things in comics to one of the most mundane things, where it's just the Joker sitting eating shrimp in a bar.
Yeah.
And it's nice that you can see the polar opposites of this character, and it makes it more intriguing because you're now thinking, what drove this man to become so evil?
And the flashback's fantastic as well. All the details in the bar, all the drunks lollygagging. In the deluxe edition, we are getting the shrimp as the red here, which is kind of pilfered by these men. And that closing panel of the shrimp making the flitch sound and him like pulling out a tentacle. Like, there's something quite intimate and painful about that I think resonates really, really well. And the plan is afoot here. We learn about his sort of, chemical factory past and his, current future as a comedian, but it doesn't seem that way. He's going to be wearing the red hood. I mean, Def, as a Batman historian, what importance is the red hood?
Oh, the red hood's massively important.
Yep.
The Joker, after he kills Jason Todd, Jason Todd was out of the comics for decades, and he came back under the moniker of Red Hood to sort of signify this. It just appears throughout, even Gotham, which I don't like the Gotham TV show, but they do play up the fact that there's a Red Hood in Gotham, and it's a mask that criminals use to kind of act, much in the same way an organization in our world, Anonymous, or sort of go under the moniker of the V for Vendetta mask, which sort of ties it back to Moore a bit. Yeah, it's just a moniker that in the early years of Gotham existed, and criminals used it as a way to appear as one entity, much in the same way that Batman does. So it very nicely juxtaposes this.
Yeah.
And it's just nice. I actually did see on YouTube the other day we got our first juxtaposition comment.
Oh, really?
Which is good. Yeah, we just got a comment saying juxtaposition. So shout out to that guy. I'm sorry I haven't took your username, but you know who you are, and I just want to say thank you.
And
that made his chuckle.
The Joker is forced into this position. I just noticed something, as we always do, Def, when we go through these comics, we always notice things that we never seen before. Just before the panel of the sort of the shrimp face up, is that the penguin there at the table?
Yeah, it looks like him, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I've never noticed that before. Yeah.
Could be. I'm sure it is. We get the dog down below as well. Very Alan Moore-esque. Snop, snop, clop. Like, he just has a fantastic... all the sounds in this are great. Of all there's risp, plick, scrit, grick. There's lots of really good stuff here. And we learn...
It's nice that Moore's using this the shrimp, getting pulled apart. And, it's held in that mobster's hand, and he's just doing whatever he wants to it, much in the same way that the mobsters are doing the exact same thing to the Joker.
Yeah.
They've got complete control of his life, and they're deciding whether he lives or dies.
Mm-hmm. And, then we meet Barbara in the hospital. Batman's there. Who's this detective? Is he a Batman feature?
Yeah, I think it's Harvey Bullock, which he's massively in the Batman animated series. It doesn't appear that often in the comics, more in stuff like Gotham Central, but he's sort of like the go-to. He's the second in command to Commissioner Gordon. He's massively in no man's land. He's just a great background character. Like, if you watch the cartoon, you'd instantly recognize him. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he's just a staple of the Batman universe. So it's nice to see him make an appearance in one of the most famous Batman graphic novels.
Yeah, I love his appearance in the bottom left as well. You know, the cigar, the shirt, the tie, his dishevelled hair. Like, everything about him is just really well designed against the cast iron of Batman, who, in a just quite disturbingly, Barbara awaking, from this deep sleep, and she's just in pure terror, really, not even for her own condition, but for her father's in the Joker's hand.
Yeah, she's waking up in a nightmare, basically, and again, that pulls back to the DC Comics changing overall. She's just woken up, and gone are the days of going out and capturing criminals and tying them up to lampposts and leaving notes. This is like horrific. It wasn't meant to go this far, but it has, and she just wants to go back, but it's irreversible.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it just the drawings yet again I think are fantastic. The way Batman's reaching out to her, saying he's Bruce as well, which kind of casts you on a certain level. Her gripping is, which you would do, like, you just grab someone if you're in emotional territory, and if they're wearing a costume, you will just kind of handle them this way. And again, the sheer physicalness of Batman, it's pure heroic Greek myth status. Then we kick into the Carnival, which has some pretty upsetting scenes. Again, if little Tim is reading,
and it's nice how this scene opens on much in the same way the cape was gripped. The fun house. I want to be as PC as possible here, right, Tom, because I don't want to offend all three of our listeners in case one of them is. But they're very demonic. These almost children-like.
Oh yeah.
Like babies. I don't know what they are. I really don't know what they are. They're sort of like dwarvish. Impish, but they're crazy. They're scary. If I woke up and seen them three leaning over us, I'd be like, fucking hell, get us to that hospital.
Yeah, he's
I would rather be paralysed.
He's declothed. We get the angle from him on the floor in the second panel of them leering over their eyes, just transfixed. All very alarming, really. We see the guy on the elephant ride yet again. He hasn't really moved an inch there. We see a lot of the freaks as well. I mean, one of the freaks is like a complete cousin It, like giant third person.
Yeah, it looks like Chewbacca, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe it was.
The giant fat woman and the twins, etc. And that image of Joker, you're going mad. The children's heads on sticks burning. The pulse. The roller coaster casting constellations behind it, lending it this kind of mythic import. The way he's sitting in the half saucer, it's just it's just so impressive.
Yeah, it's a another grand entrance by the Joker. Every time he sort of appears in this comic, it's very grandiose, and this is definitely one of the most memorable. It's just like, even just the way he's sitting, it's very sort of twisted and unhuman. Like, the proportions are, whilst they look great, you kind of wonder how they would actually be correct. His legs look absolutely massive, and it just gives you this whole twisted feeling that you're now in a fun house, and mayhem is the law. And this is his quest, really, and it's very Alan Moore-esque. Pitting yourself against his psyche, understanding who you really are. It wasn't going to be a standard sort of Batman villain sort of story. It was going to be one of these, trips into Dante's Inferno to a certain extent, and it is just wonderfully done. Even just the paneling as well. The left panel with Joker's voice coming up from the bottom, and then the switch of perspective, so looking straight up at him. I think is terrifically done. His minions shoving him on the floor, the puddle
puddles of what I can't imagine what really on this horrific nightmare-scape. I would looking at these panels, I would hate to be there. It would I'd really not enjoy it. And we move on, and things are explained, the idea of having multiple pasts, the idea of contracting rationality itself. There is no sanity clause, he says, getting him onto this fairground ride. And it's just, oh my God, how tense when it ends and we flash back.
Yeah, it's like you really wonder what could be in there. And I love, again, Moore's wit when he's talking about how thinking about the past can be worrying and anxious. He calls it the past tense. It really is some of the best singers by the Joker. Yeah. And it's a perfect way to end this, scenario where we just see madness is going to take over. And I love the way that throughout this, the Joker is sort of the king, the way he sits on his throne. You're in the land of madness, so you must be mad. You must go mad to fit in here, Gordon. And I'm your king, and we're gonna send you on a ride and then see how you like it.
Yeah, the train of thought. As he says, he's stripped nude as well, which again, is just quite brave, I suppose. And it's just quite unseemly and very unsettling, especially these children tying him in, the door closing. Madness is the emergency exit, and I mean, which ties beautifully into the flashback. The idea of madness can come quickly and abruptly. You really don't know what's going to happen around the corner, and him learning about the death of his wife and therefore his unborn child, and his static motion explicitly in those bottom 3 panels. You don't even see his eyes, isn't it? You really feel he's been punched in the gut. His life has been turned upside down.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. So well drawn, and Bolland does so much with so little. It's pretty much the same panel 3 times. Yeah. But the facial expression just changes ever so slightly, and the arm positions change. Nothing else does, and it's incredible that Bolland manages to convey such emotion throughout 3 panels without doing anything really other than drawing it 3 times.
Yeah, it's just, even you look at the slight wrinkles on the suits which inform his kind of hunched up nature, and the picture that they get shown of, which eventually draws into the Joker, the two in front, reminds me a lot of American Gothic by Grant Wood, the sort of iconic painting. I don't know if Moore was going for that, because it is really just 2 people standing for a photo, so it could really be anything. But nice little things like when the cops come over and the wise guys under their hats, which is kind of I guess what you do, but it has a kind of comicness to it, an oldie nature that I love. But yeah, him lighting the cigarette as he takes the realization, the routineness of this for an officer, the devastation of this for an individual is just captured, just truly brilliantly. When you read these things and they always stick with you. I've always been wowed by this sequence.
Yeah, and it's not some, a death's not some blaze of glory like the Waynes was. It was just an electrocution on a baby bottle here. He lost his wife and kids for no real reason. Yeah, it was just a freak accident. It was just chaos, which of course symbolizes the Joker, and it's like a horrible. It's almost unreal. Like, if you imagine this happening to yourself, you wouldn't believe it. Like, you'd think it was a joke at first. And you can just see this guy's totally broken down, but he's got this obligation to appear in this robbery. And it's just, you can feel just the life sucked out of him.
Yeah, no buts. He is, forced into this, unfortunately. No exceptions. He gets the picture. And just closing on, again, the way Bolland captures just pure despair, pure loss of anything. And the jokes at his corner as well, the man in the masked hat sort of smiling at him. It works, it's a little bit arch, but I think it works. You need the panels to have these interesting motions here. And even like the glass of empty water in front of him as well, does that probably does symbolize something in some way, but going from
the glass is half full, Tom.
Right. Yeah.
It's not even half full anymore.
Holy shit.
It's empty.
Okay. There's
That's why you don't do research, Tom. Just never do it.
And, we morph into Gordon in the same way, going through. And Joker, his command of technology is impressive, his control of these screens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't thinking that when I read it, but I suppose you're right, yeah. He should be an electrician, this lad.
You know what I mean?
He should be doing lights and projections and stuff. He could do anything, this guy.
Yeah. He's like Roger Deakins or someone like that.
Yeah. That's what you should take. That's what Batman should say at the end. He shouldn't kill him. He should be like, "Oh, I've seen your funhouse ride, mate. You'd actually make a pretty good funhouse operator. Have you thought about taking us on the road?"
And
I've got connections. I know Dick Grayson.
I know the Gotham board.
Get you acrobat. Just the one though. Yeah.
And it's just all of this is so brilliant. The Joker just espousing, the benefits of losing your mind and letting go.
Yeah.
And, trade the gloom for a rubber room and injections twice a day. And the way he's dancing as well, his legs cocked, his hat, it's very Gene Kelly. And, this section then goes into possibly one of the most controversial comic book sections ever. Certainly like a very popular comic book that is sold, in Waterstones, in bookshops. It's not like a niche thing. Everyone knows about the Killing Joke. The Pictures of Barbara.
Yeah. And some people take this as he sexually molested her. But I don't know. I've never read that far into it. But it is, imagine just seeing your naked, paralysed daughter, like, it's not nice.
No,
it's not it's not the typical villain plan of kidnapping the daughter and tying her to a rope and dangling it over a pool of piranhas. It's pretty much just like, no, I just shot her and took photos of her. It's more simplistic, but it's much more evil. It's not elaborate. It's pretty fucked up.
Very fucked up, yeah. The design of the panelling's great. Initially, we see there's 4 shots shown, but you can only really see 3. One of them is just all flesh, and they are, they are really hard to look at. Am I wrong in seeing on the sort of the image that he's screaming at with her on her back? You can sort of see just the beginning of a nipple on the edge of the panel at the left.
Yeah, like, maybe.
Maybe I'm just that feels like something Moore would do. You know what I mean? Or maybe one of his artists would do. But it is just, oh my god, like it's despicable.
Yeah, it's just messed up.
Yeah,
it's like the Joker's crossed the line, and now you're sort of thinking, right, he's stepped over this. Is Batman gonna go kill the lad?
Yeah. And the way he pops out of the panelling as well, his eyes, his teeth don't get even, get mad. And the fact that the children are trying to push him down as well, so he can't see. And then we cut to a little bit of hope, a little bit of momentum in terms of the heroic pursuit. Batman sort of basically trying to find Joker yet again. Yeah,
and it's great how he's interrogating all these criminals. Even the Penguin even pops up there, and he's just terrifying them. He's desperate to get to the bottom of this. And it's really nice, and it's good how Batman doesn't actually find the Joker. The Joker wants to be found, so he sends this ticket to Batman for the carnival. Just admit one, and it's got with compliments, and it's the little Joker's face. So Batman might have never ever caught the Joker, but it's sort of the reverse way of the villain wants to be caught, because he's like, look, I've done my work now. I've already won. Come and see.
Yeah, and it just, the commissioner comes through the train as all of this progresses through, and gets out, and the Joker is just kind of is anyone home? He says, which is just starting. His eyes are like disco balls, and they got blots in them, and he seems to just kind of not really react. But what he's done here is so sophisticated. I reckon it could break the majority of people.
Oh, definitely, yeah. If it was anyone other than Commissioner Gordon, it would definitely break them. But Gordon is the best of us. I mean, even Gotham couldn't break him when he first moved here, and when he moved there and saw all the corruption, even that didn't break him. So he's much like Batman in a way that he can't be broken. He's infallible. He's one of the the most underrated heroes in the Batman universe, but he's just as much a hero, if not more, than Batman is, because he puts his life on the line. Like, villains can show up to his house and shoot his daughter. There's no hidden side to him. So yeah, I think he would survive it, but no one else would.
No, and the Joker basically puts him away to reflect upon life and all its random injustice as he's reflecting himself, and then of course we go back again to the whole Red Hood stuff, which I think is fantastic. The realities of this life are explored. Him putting on the hood, finding it difficult to breathe, hard to see. Yeah. Of course, there would be these constrictions, and it is effectively, a goose for the police officers to follow. And, things move quickly, and they are discovered. And Red Hood is the only one who survives, and there's some pretty gruesome headshots with the firing.
Yeah, they always kind of stood out to me, like just the way they get sprayed with bullets. And it's just like, horrendous.
Yeah. And, he runs away in what could be construed as some sort of grand escape, but obviously it's just a man who's terrified, who's escaping, who is Illuminate in these black and white times, which is before Schindler's List, I believe, that did something similar. So,
all right, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's been done before, I'm sure, but, it was quite interesting to see. And Batman arrives, but an early Batman, and, Batman who isn't so police cooperative, perhaps, at this sense, who's kind of finding his feet. It's quite exciting to see him in the flashback.
Yeah, and it's nice how he's sort of, his first line is like, "So Red Hood, we meet again."
Yeah.
Like, "we meet again" is pretty much like the archetype entrance of a hero, saying that we've faced off many times before. And it's just a nice, it's the perfect symbolization of a hero showing up. And it's nice that we see it from the Red Hood's perspective of just how terrifying Batman would be, showing up, and he's just going to kick the crap out of you. So naturally he jumps over the edge, even though it probably would have been safer to just hand himself in. Yeah,
and he falls in Joker water? Like, what is it?
I think it's just chemical output from the chemical processing plant. And Ace Chemicals is like a staple of the Batman universe as well. So yeah, it's nice to see this show up at Joker's origins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And he becomes, this is it. Effectively takes off the hood, the green hair, the makeup, all of the changes we get. His gloves kind of look like Mickey Mouse gloves.
Yeah, and it's nice that this Red Hood costumes kind of came out, and it sort of inspires the way the Joker's costume is going to go down the line. And just seeing his reflection just completely breaks him. He's now became this clown, and he realizes how much, he's been looking at the world and how funny it is, but now he sees it reflected back in himself, and it's just great to see this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, entirely. And we get all the freaks laughing at Gordon, who is in his cage. I love how the ha-ha-has block out the whole background.
Yeah.
They almost like a circus tent. You get all the freaks, get a good shot there. Joker has his audience. And, Batman arrives, which is, inevitable. We need this Shakespearean conflict to come to a close to a certain extent. We see the guy on the elephant sitting there half dead. And Batman coming in. There's something, I keep saying 80s, but you know what I mean? There's something sort of classic era about his silhouette here. It's a very animated series, I suppose, before he came out.
Yeah, and the Batmobile itself, it's a very old one. At the time, the Batmobile had been modernized quite heavily. But it's nice that Moore decides to use the older design of it. It sort of signifies the past and an order meeting with the future, which is inevitably what the Joker sort of wants to introduce to Batman's psyche. He wants to say, no, you've lived in this world where everything's perfect and there's right and wrong, but I'm going to introduce this idea for the future that everything's crazy. And it's a great meeting of the two, symbolized within this car.
Yeah, and the poor giant fat woman is running out the way, hoping to get there, and just all the details are terrific. You can even see Gotham in the background with skyscrapers.
Yeah.
So it's just on the outskirts. This is the reflection yet again, this time of the fairground rides. And this always happens. I love that you see all the freaks running away when you see Joker just standing there as well.
Yeah.
That's another thing. I don't think I've noticed that before, for whatever reason, but seeing Batman climb out, hello, I came to talk, we have this echoing, going from the forward, but there's just something, it's one of the rare things in fiction is Batman and Joker. It's one of those eternal rivalries that is just always satisfying.
Yeah, and it's great to see here that the two of it bringing up the speech from the beginning. I've been thinking lately about you, about me, about what's going to happen to us in the end. We're going to end up killing each other, aren't we? Which is, of course, what happens in this book, even though it doesn't explicitly say. I do think that Batman does kill the Joker.
Okay. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But
and then it's nice that Moore brings up the first bit of dialogue, but it's not Batman saying it. He's just thinking it, and it's went past that point where he's ever gonna vocalize it to the Joker. He's just here to act. And
the Joker, has Joker's type attacks. He sprays him with this horrible, acid that then we see Batman sort of treating with antidote that he has on him. There's something very inevitable about so much of this. Him running away to his lair as well. Batman following. Jim is retrieved outward. And Batman learns more about where we are to this extent, trying to change him. The fact that he wants him brought in by the book as well, very admirable.
Yeah, definitely. And Gordon, he's the police commissioner. He's the commissioner of police. He could easily just kill the lad. He could just be like, you know what, just do what you want, mate. I'm sick of him. But he still excuses him because he knows the law is right. We'll have to show him that our way works.
Yeah, he powers on through Batman. We can see his exposed arm now with the boils on them, which I love.
Yeah.
The Hall of Mirrors, which is effectively Joker's face. The spike pit, which is coated with something as well. But the spike pit, it's a very classic villain sort of 60s thing, isn't it? Like hanging on.
And it's nice that, the Hall of Mirrors, it's got to a point now where it's very on the nose for villains and heroes to face off in Hall of Mirrors. The first time I can remember seeing it was in Enter the Dragon. They've also done it in The Dark Knight Returns, except for in The Dark Knight Returns it then escalates slightly and ends in the Tunnel of Love. So it goes from this Hall of Mirrors where Batman and Batman and the Joker are symbolically reflecting each other, and then they go to the Tunnel of Love, which is where the relationship ends.
Sure.
Moore rarely seems to copy those, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But it's just the monologue within this Hall of Mirrors is good enough for me to just look over everything that I might think is a negative. Just talking about how many times we've come close to World War III over a flock of geese on a computer screen. It clearly influenced the Dark Knight movie, and then Joker does a similar monologue to Two-Face in the hospital. And it's great that he makes it so the world's like this monstrous gag, and he's asking why Batman can't see the funny side. And he bursts through and goes, because I've heard it before, and it wasn't funny the first time. That was my Batman impression. DC, good. Hit me up, if you need an animated voice. Or I've been doing the weights, Tom. Or if you need someone to replace Ben Affleck, I'm just putting it out there.
Down.
I charge a lot less than Ben Affleck does, mate. I tell you that one for free.
The way Joker looks, as well, when he says, why can't you see the funny side? He looks like 10, 15 years younger. He looks like how he looked, beforehand. He resumes.
He's like a horrified child, isn't he?
Yeah. He's just kind of faced with this horrible existential glee. And even the top right panel where you see him sort of marching from below and you get to appreciate a visage of who he is with the ribbon, and it's just all fantastic Joker work, culminating, as you say, in the crash through the glass, which I love. Sort of crashes through the panel as well itself. It's all very well done, very classic. Him coming through, him grabbing the Joker, them facing off in some pretty compelling combat where I love when he grabs the mask by the two eyes as well. Really, again, quite goofy, quite Cesar Romero-esque, but in a modern tinge it works.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, just completely blinds him, and I'm surprised no one had ever done it to Batman before. They do it in Watchmen, don't they? They talk about the mask being pulled down over someone's eyes.
Yeah.
So they started gluing it on instead. I think it was the original Night Owl that said it.
Yeah.
Dollar
Bill, I think, got his cape stuck in the bank as well, so yeah.
Yeah. Like costumes are quite goofy, and they literally only work in comics and movies. Or cartoons. So yeah, it's nice that Moore's realised that, and he's like, well, yeah, this is what would happen if a villain did fight Batman in real life. But it's also nice that Batman easily bests the Joker hand to hand. Like, it does my head in comics, Tom, when the Batman and Joker have a fight in they're equally matched. Like Narson, the Joker's he's not on that level at all.
Yeah.
It's quite good that they do in Arkham City, when eventually you get to the Joker and you have a hand-to-hand fight with him, and you just completely bray the lad. Bray, for our American listeners, just means to kick the shit out of someone.
Right. Yeah, and you just see the culmination, really, which I like. You see the Boyle from before. His mask gets hit in his eyes. He gets hit over the head, clunked with a heavy wooden bat, which isn't nice. And then a knife comes out, which he defends. And when eventually he does get his hands on the Joker, like you say, he does deal with him quite easily, punches him out a building.
Batman solves all his problems just by punching them, Tom. And it's nice that he solves this way too.
And, we have a revisitation of Joker with a gun. Could he paralyze Batman similar to Barbara? But no, it's a joke gun here. And Joker sort of accepts defeat to a certain level, but then Batman opens up the dialogue again.
Yeah. But he says, we're running out of alternatives, and we both know it. Maybe this is our last chance to sort this bloody mess out. And if you don't take it, well, we're locked on this suicide course. I'm going to go my Batman voice for this. Both of us. To the death. Incredible.
Yeah,
and the Oscar. Strong. And the Oscar for Best Batman goes to... Thank you very much.
We see the rain on Joker's chin, similar to Batman's chin. These similarities do run through.
I like how you've just started ignoring my jokes and just not... No,
they're there, man. Everyone hears them. They're there.
They're just you sighing in the background.
And then, we get the joke that effectively ends the thing.
The killing joke.
The killing joke. I mean, a lot of people still don't quite understand what is meant by Joker's joke. You know what I mean?
It can be interpreted two ways. So do you want to... I've got it written out. Do you want to read it? Or should I? I think people are probably sick of hearing my voice.
No. Please read it, man. Please.
Okay, I'm not going to bother doing the Joker voice. See, there were these two guys in a lunatic asylum, and one night they decide they don't like living in the asylum anymore. They decide they're going to escape. So it's going to be terribly told this. So they get up on the roof, and they're just across this narrow gap. They see two rooftops. They see the rooftops of the town stretching away in the moonlight, stretching to freedom. Now, the first guy, he jumps right across with no problem. But his friend didn't dare make the leap. You see, he's afraid of falling. So then the first guy has an idea. He says, hey, I've made a flashlight. I have my flashlight. Oh, fucking hell, Tom, I butchered it. Basically, I have my flashlight with me. I'll shine it across the gap between the buildings. You can walk across the beam and join me. But the second guy just shakes his head. He says, what do you think I am? Crazy? You turn it off when I was halfway across. Obviously, I'm never going to... I'm shit at telling jokes, Tom. You've been listening to the podcast. You know that already. We should have let you tell it.
No, it's all good. But I mean, how do you read the meaning of that?
So it's difficult to decide which one is Batman and which one is the Joker in this anecdote. So is Batman the one trying to shine the light and the Joker's too scared to jump across? Or is the Joker showing Batman that, Batman's in fact insane, but he won't admit it to himself? And it is really nice. How do you take it?
Yeah, I think the same way. Yeah, I think just both of them, it's not clear who's leading who across the path, but none of them are going to lead them fully across. And, we end with one of my favourite endings of anything, really. I love the ending in The Killing Joke because it can be taken so many ways.
Yeah.
Seeing the
unless someone tells the joke terribly, and then
it's written terribly because it all has the Jokerisms in it. It's not quite, it's not quite clear. But I mean, the fact that the laughing ends, you take that as death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I take that as Batman's killed the Joker.
Okay.
Which Grant Morrison also backed up. Yeah. He said that people don't seem to realise it's called the Killing Joke because it's the joke that makes Batman kill the Joker. So, Fat Man on Batman, they have a brilliant interview with Grant Morrison where he discusses this in a lot more detail. But I definitely do take it as Batman kills the Joker, and you can sort of see this by the fact the laughing stops it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just there's just this silence to it, and Batman's clearly got his hands around the Joker's throat, and then you can see in the next panel that the Joker's sort of kneeling down, and then the laughter just stops. They handle it quite well in the animated movie. And I come to the same conclusion watching that, and of course Jeff Johns has decided all of a sudden that we've now got 3 Jokers, so this could have been the first.
Right. Okay.
And Batman kills him, and then he just represses the memory.
And I mean, the argument that it ends and starts with the rain as if nothing changes, does that not hold weight for you?
No.
I mean, it is kind of a permanent Moore thing, isn't it? He does like doing that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think I'm with you. I think the Joker's probably been killed. Yeah, it is called the fucking Killing Joke. So it's kind of and it's something Moore would do.
Do you think he did like a weekend at Bernie's with the Joker when he brought the body out and Gordon was there? Like, it's like, hey, is he all right? And Batman's just like nodding his head, going, yeah, I'm fine. Just he puts his thumb under his chin and makes his lips move and goes, no, I'm great. I've never been better. Sorry about your daughter, Gordon.
Has Batman ever killed?
Yeah, the first ever comic Batman killed him.
Right.
He just pushed some guy into some chemical waste. It seems to be one of his favourite things to do, judging by this. Maybe he was angry when he got to the Red Hood and the Red Hood jumped in there voluntarily. He was like, damn, I was just about to push him. Fuck.
And
that's my thing.
That is the Killing Joke. It's not too lengthy, but I think it's the perfect length for what it is. It is one of the Batman stories. I haven't read as many as Def, but it's definitely one of my favourites. It's a great Alan Moore story. You've probably read it if you're listening to a Watchmen podcast. If you haven't yet, definitely pick it up, definitely read it, and come back to this episode and check out our analysis of it. Obviously,
then go watch the animated movie and ruin it for yourself.
Yeah, is that trash? I've heard it's trash.
The first 45 minutes, Bruce Timm, who did the animated Batman series, legendary. He basically has free reign over it, and he has Batman and Barbara sleeping with each other.
Right.
And also there's the character that it's basically a Batgirl story, and it's about Batgirl capturing this character who's also obsessed with her, much in the same way that the Joker is. So they pretty much tell the same story twice. But some of the dialogue is horrendous. Barbara's got this gay friend in it who, I'm not against gay people, Tom.
Sure. Yeah.
But it sort of doesn't fit the having this sort of ugly Betty character,
sure.
Sort of cracking jokes alongside Barbara Gordon, and then she's talking the villain at one point, Batgirl hits him, and he goes, "Is it that time of the month?" It's very it's got none of the sophistication that Moore had. It's very stereo. If they had a fully developed gay character, I wouldn't mind. But it's very much the stereotypical gay best friend character who's there to aid the girl in her teen love, and then Batman and Batgirl sleep with each other, and she rings him up hey, It's only like we slept with each other. It's like nothing major, like you don't have to care. I don't care. We don't care. We can just be like this. And that's genuinely like one of the dialogue scenes in it. And it completely cheapens the character. And I would say if you want to watch The Killing Joke, just start 45 minutes in and you'll be fine, lads. You'll be fine.
And
do not press rewind. Do not watch any of that DVD before that.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when it came out, it was panned. I've not seen it yet. What about the actual take on the main story?
It's exactly the same. Mark Hamill does the Joker voice, but he does a really dialed back version of it.
Okay.
And he seems almost bored. And that's disappointing as well. Like Hamill obviously did an amazing job with the animated series and the Arkham games. So it's really just a shame all around, to be honest. And the worst thing is that Mark Hamill for years said he would only ever come back and do the Joker if they did The Killing Joke, and they did it, and it was kind of meh.
Yeah. Moore isn't too much of a fan of The Killing Joke. He actually said in 2003, quote, "The Killing Joke is a story about Batman and Joker. It isn't about anything that you're ever going to encounter in real life because the Batman and Joker are not like any human beings that have ever lived. So there's no important human information being imparted. Yeah, it was something that I thought was clumsy, misguided, and had no real human importance. It was just about a couple of licensed DC characters that didn't relate to the real world in any way."
Yeah, fair enough.
Damn. I mean, obviously they're not real. Like I don't really know what his point is.
I think Moore just sort of. Moore is he's his own worst critic. He probably doesn't like most of his work, to be honest, which makes him cooler because like the lad's got such high standards of himself. If you don't like your own stuff, though, you're never going to get better. If you make like what you think the perfect thing is, you're just going to end up mimicking it all the time. So I'm glad that we've got Alan Moore, who hates his own stuff and he's constantly trying to better himself.
Yeah. He's doing his War and Peace novel on Northampton, which is out in Jerusalem. But I mean, the influence on Joker stories cannot be, overstated. Really, it's quite incredible how much it has led from the mythology.
That's a great book, to be honest.
Yeah, it is a great
book. It's
book.
almost as good as Doomsday Clock issue 2, which is a perfect 10 out of 10 if you go by the reviews.
I'm just looking on the Wikipedia because there's many video games that he's referencing. Apparently in Injustice 2013, you could get
you get a costume.
Yeah, you get the Killing Joke pack, which includes Hawaiian attire, Red Hood, and his hat and long coat. That's very cool.
Yeah. They also do it quite heavily in Batman Arkham Knight, where Batman gets gassed with Scarecrow fear toxin, and he goes to Barbara's apartment and he has a hallucination that she's on the floor that she's in her apartment. Then she answers the door, the Joker person, and shoots her. And it's a nice little callback. I don't think anything that's ever referenced it though has done it as good as the original. Like on my website when I reviewed it, I got a 9.5 out of 10.
Right.
So yeah, really good.
Okay, cool. But yeah, this is about
which is almost as high as Doomsday Clock is.
I just
listen to
we're
our
not
Doomsday
wrong. We're
podcast.
Not. It's like it's fucking egotistical of us to say, but I'm sorry, it's not very good. It's just I'm not. But like we're gonna review it, and like I enjoy reviewing it and stuff like that, and knowing what happens next. But it's just I can't really fathom. But it's like a lot of things. A lot of films on Rotten Tomatoes get high scores, and I watch them, and I'm like, really?
Yeah,
so,
I'm going to do a video about how Rotten Tomatoes don't work, Tom, and just aggregates in general don't work because have you seen Mother?
No, I haven't. I've heard that it's pretty wild.
Yeah, there's people who think it's like the best film ever made, and there's people who think it's the worst film ever made, and Rotten Tomatoes, it's like 70%. But, there's no one watching that movie who goes, oh, that was a 7 out of 10 movie. There's either people who say it's a 10 out of 10 or people who say it's a 1 out of 10. So, don't go off Rotten Tomatoes,
Okay.
Especially if you like DC, fucking hell.
Oh, yeah.
I think they've only got one fucking good movie on there in the past 5 years.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. But this is, this has been us doing a little detour, as we say, into The Killing Joke. We will be back soon for, is it issue 7 or 8 we're on for Watchmen?
Yeah, something like that. Who cares?
Something around.
Just get it over with.
So we've got quite a few to go, so we'll check that out. Please subscribe to the channel, comment on the videos, get in touch with us, watchingthewatchmanpod@gmail.com. We love to read our emails, your reviews, your takes on Watchmen, anything else we discussed. Def, your websites and that, if it's still up?
It's not, no. I've been trying to fix it while I've been doing this podcast, but yeah, it's not. Okay. It's not happening.
But the links are down below. And, definitely read The Killing Joke.
Hopefully by the time this is up, it'll be sorted.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Or I'll rebuild it from scratch. Yay.
Thank you all for listening. And Def, as always, it's been good, man.
Yeah, great, man. Good talking to you. Take care, everyone. And thanks very much for checking out the podcast. It's a good night from me.
And it's a good night from Quee.
Yes.